With tax season just hitting last month, you might still be sore from sending in those payments to Uncle Sam. And while chances are you scored some pretty significant tax deductions because you invest in real estate, there is always room for improvement. Whether you're a homeowner settling down or a landlord building your portfolio, today I want to go over some reasons why owning in Idaho can provide you with some extra tax perks. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sylvia with Wealth Builders Realty in the Boise metro area of Idaho. We are a full-service real estate company dedicated to helping you buy, sell, and invest in residential real estate as a means to grow your wealth. Real estate has long been one of the most tax-advantaged investments out there, and today I want to share why buying and investing in Idaho specifically can save you some money when it comes to taxes. Let's break it down. First, I want to start with a wide lens and look at Idaho's overall tax burden as it applies to all who live and do business here. State income tax is a flat 5.8%. And while it cannot compete with zero income tax states like Florida or Texas, 5.8% isn't too shabby when you look at other states like California and New York. And of course, it is always good to take into account where those states that don't have an income tax make up that shortfall in revenue for their state. One of these ways is sales tax, which applies to virtually everything you buy, including services in some areas. Sales tax in Idaho is a low 6%, with the only caveat being Sun Valley, which will get you with a 10% sales tax. But I have to say, if you can afford to spend some time in Sun Valley, a 10% sales tax is the least of your worries. The more widely used method for bringing in revenue to states without an income tax is good old property taxes, paid directly and indirectly by everyone who lives and owns real estate assets in the state. Idaho's effective property tax rate is just 0.47% for owner-occupied homes and 0.63% overall. Both of these sit well below the national average of 0.90%. Now, I know that one of the biggest rises in cost to both homeowners and investors has been property taxes, thanks to the rising property values across most of the U.S. Thankfully, in Idaho, these rising values have allowed the state to ease up on residents, and rates have actually gone down. Urban areas like the Boise metro area average about 0.73%, while rural areas, which are abundant in Idaho, are closer to 0.46%. There are many reasons for this recent decline, which I will cover further in a bit. For now, let's look at how an effective rate would be applied to the value of your home to calculate what you would owe in property taxes. For the sake of simplicity, I am using the median home price, which is a number widely available. I will use this to demonstrate the importance of a low effective property tax rate. I surveyed some popular cities in both Texas and Florida. Based on the chart, you can see that Boise is one of the higher median priced areas. However, the much lower effective tax rate really makes a difference in your total outlay for property taxes. Now, as I mentioned in the example, we used median home price, but that is not always what is used to actually calculate the value of your home. Every state can have a different method for coming up with the value at which your home will be assessed. And some of that has to do with whether the state is a disclosure state or a non-disclosure state. Idaho is a non-disclosure state, meaning it's illegal for county assessors to use direct sales prices in their valuations. Because sales price is not disclosed, assessors in Idaho use sales trends and adjust annually, which tends to benefit the homeowner. In a newer subdivision where homes are being sold frequently, your assessed value will normally be in line with what you actually pay. However, in those areas where not many homes sell throughout the year, there really isn't much for the assessor's office to go by. And because it's illegal for them to phone a friend, aka the MLS, they must guess. And before you argue that they would just guess high, Idaho makes provisions for homeowners to appeal their assessed value within a specified allotted time if they think it's inaccurate. So it does not behoove the assessor's office to guess high, only to be contested. If you currently live in Idaho, who do you think you should call for a better estimate of your home's true value? Your realtor, of course. Unlike the assessor's office, realtors have free rein to use the MLS, where all accurate data is stored in regards to final sales price. This will include what concessions were offered, and in the case of new construction, what goodies the inside of that home might have that make it more or less valuable than yours. Because of this non-disclosure privilege, you do not have to disclose to the county assessor's office what you paid for the property. Of course, this does not prohibit the county from trying to collect that data in an effort to use it in their future sales trends. If you do business with our company and our team, we will always advise you to plead the fifth. As a side note, this is why Zillow's Zestimate can be a terribly inaccurate number in Idaho. If you're looking to sell a home here, please don't base your price on Zillow's number. They will know the listing price and any price reductions, but they do not have access to the final sales price. And if you have ever bought or sold a property, what the seller is asking doesn't always translate to the price the buyer ends up paying. So being a non-disclosure state isn't the end of the benefits offered by Idaho. If you occupy your home and call it your primary residence, you can take advantage of Idaho's homeowner's exemption. This gives you 50% of your home's assessed value up to $125,000 free from taxes. How does this work? Well, so long as you reside in your home for at least 6 months and a day and claim it as your primary residence, you can deduct up to $125,000 from the assessed value of your home. If you own the medium-priced home in Boise of $589,000 from our previous example, and let's say it was assessed as such, you would only pay taxes on a value of $464,000. This knocks down that $4,300 bill to $3,387, a savings of almost $1,000 a year. Even better, Idaho does not discriminate against investors or snowbirds. So long as you consider your home in Idaho as your primary residence, you can still take the exemption even if you fly somewhere warmer, like say Florida, for a few months out of the year. Further, this exemption applies to residential income properties like duplexes, triplexes, and up to a fourplex. If you occupy one of the units, you can claim the exemption on the portion that you occupy up to that $125,000 limit. Here's a quick example of how this would work and why it's so amazing for some investors. If you buy a duplex with an assessed value of $500,000, and for simple math, let's say both units are the same 2-2 configuration. Each unit would be approximately $250,000 in value. If you live in one, then you can claim the homeowner's exemption, which allows you to take 50% up to $125,000. In this case, 50% of $250 is $125, which means you could take the full exemption on your unit, reducing the taxable value of your duplex by that $125. So instead of paying 0.7% on $500,000, which equals $3,650, you will pay it on $375, which brings your tax bill down to $2,737.50. There are two other property benefits that Idaho offers specifically to owner occupants. The first is the Property Tax Reduction Program, more commonly known as the Circuit Breaker. This program is quite helpful to those on a lower fixed income and can lower their property tax bill by as much as $1,500 if they qualify. Unlike the homeowner's exemption that stays on a home without having to renew, the circuit breaker needs to be applied for every year before April 15th. In order to qualify, one must meet the following criteria. 1. Earn less than $37,810 and be over 65 years of age, or blind, widow, disabled, a former POW or hostage, or a motherless or fatherless child under 18 years old. Of course, you must reside in your home and call it your primary residence. But best of all, this program can be applied to mobile homes as well. The second benefit is the homestead exemption, not to be confused with the previously discussed homeowner's exemption. The homestead allows you to protect the equity of your primary residence from creditors. Currently, you can protect up to $175,000. This means that if you were sued by creditors and were forced to sell your home, you would be able to retain up to $175,000 of the equity in your home. Plus, you can retain that protection for up to 2 years as you figure out where your next place to call home will be. As I mentioned earlier, due to the dramatic rise in property values in the Boise metro area in particular, property taxes for residents went through the roof. Thankfully, state legislators heard the groans of its people and quickly moved into action. The most dramatic rise in property values came between late 2020 and early 2022. By early 2023, our state legislators were getting ready to vote on House Bill 292. This bill provided additional state funds redirected to reduce property taxes for homeowners for at least 3 years. In the first year, it would provide at least $205 million in relief. at least $122 million in the second year, and another minimum of $182 million in the third year. But that is not all. Just this year, Idaho legislators passed House Bill 304, which provided another $100 million in tax relief. $50 million would go directly to a property tax relief fund, while another $50 million goes to schools for paying off school bonds, levies, and even building new facilities, which would normally be paid through a homeowner's property taxes. And did I mention that the second $50 million directly benefits not just owner-occupants in Idaho, but investors as well? While the first $50 million is earmarked for those who have a homeowner's exemption in place, aka they claim their home as their primary residence, the other $50 million that is funneled to the local schools indirectly lowers an investor's property tax burden by saving them the money that would normally be charged to them through school bonds and levies. Kudos to the state as they work to let property owners gain the benefits of home appreciation while doing their best to keep those property taxes low. Friends, I have saved the best for last, and that is that on top of all these wonderful tax advantages you can enjoy if you live or invest in Idaho, you also have the benefit of passing all your real estate wealth to your heirs with not even a penny being taken out by the state. Of course, I am speaking about the estate tax. The federal government imposes estate taxes on anything inherited that is valued over $13.6 million. Idaho, zero. As you can see, not only am I passionate about investing in Idaho for the various tax benefits offered by the state, but I am also pretty happy with the efforts being made at the state level to improve every homeowner's ability to enjoy their home and their investments. If you have any questions about what I covered today, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We would be happy to show you why, taxes aside, Idaho is a great place to invest. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next one.